So as you go into this video and start watching these videos in the series that we've created that are coming out of this seminar, you'll just be able to see pieces and parts of it. And the part that we're going into now is the creation of their posters. We call this poster power, where each of them will create a poster, and in the creation of those posters, they're going to be able to share with the rest of the group that unique aspect of their temperament.
All right, so I'm going to give you a paper for your table. Excuse me. Just kind of lay it out as best you can. You can move the plant back if you need to, whatever you need to do. I need you to identify at your table group who has the highest number for that table group. And that person, go ahead and stand up for me. Whoever had the highest number. So we got the highest green.
Just the highest number.
Just the highest number, and the highest number. Okay, I'm going to pick on her a lot. This is my daughter, Selena, so it's just she's lived with this for 20 years. So,
Selena, can you stand up one more time?
Stand up, Selena. She wants to. Do you see the resemblance? Oh, wait a second. You're adopted.
What?
Thought I'd break the news to her today, right? Okay, so here's what you're going to do, people that were standing up, and Selena. You're the litmus test. You're not the boss at the table. You're not going to take charge of the pens or anything else. Although you might, Jessica. What you're going to do is there might be what I call posers sitting at your table, right? Or somebody that's close. And they'll be saying, so what you're going to capture on this piece of paper is what do you now isolate the blue, isolate the gold, the green, the orange, and say, as a blue, what do you value? What do you find joy in? So values, joys, strengths, and needs. It's 4 things. Doesn't mean you create the poster however you want, but you're going to talk about values, joys, strengths, and needs. Okay? So what does it look like? If I'm at Jessica's table and I'm back here and I'm like, well, one of the things I value is like speed like nobody's business, like uncontrollable speed. And Jessica's like going, well, I mean, I like going fast. It gives me, right? So she might wait for a second, and then all of a sudden we go around the table, and then I say, oh, one of the things I like is rules are like, again, I forget rules. I just don't like, and so Jessica's like, you're out of here. So you get to kick people out of your group. Okay, hold on for just a second. For this group, because you can kick somebody off the island, right? You already did. You can kick somebody off the island. Over here, Selena's going to have to come let me know who to kick off her island because she won't be able to kick anybody off this table. True story. I had a gentleman, a high green, not to pick on greens, had a high green, came into and as soon as he walked in, he's like, this is bogus, this is ridiculous, there's nothing. And so he intentionally tested himself into the blue group to prove a point. He came, he sat in the blue group, and he started to say things that were like, one of the things I value and I really find joy in is beating people up. And I'm not kidding you. The blues kind of looked at him like, okay, well, if that's what you enjoy, beating people up. There was nothing he could say that shocked. They oh, okay. And through the process of the next couple hours that we're going through, he began to realize that this really is true. Humans really do act and behave in regards to these temperaments and how we act and how we, So he actually, by the end, he was asking me questions after questions after questions. And so it's just kind of a funny thing. But yeah, so I know you won't kick anybody off, and we probably won't have to kick anybody off, maybe. All right, so go to work. Values, joys, strengths, and needs. Create your poster. You got about 10 minutes, so go to work.
Yeah, same. That sounds good.
You might have to kick him out.
I'm getting there.
I like beating up on people too.
All right, let's go ahead and, if you could, stay where you're at, turn around as best you can, get comfortable so you can see. I'm going to do a little teach for just a minute to kind of lay the foundation of this next part of the activity that we're going to do. And the whole intent of this next activity is to just help us start now putting this together. So there's two parts to today that we're taking you through. The first part is called self-awareness. And that's the ability that we have as a human being to be able to know what's happening, how are we interacting in that world, and are we, I call it, are we awake, right? You look around, last couple weeks, I was down in California. And so I'm training for a race this summer, and so I had to just keep training. I was trying to help out my sisters down there. So I went running. And on every single, I went and run this one mountain thing that a lot of people walk. It's in Hollywood. So I thought, this is going to be awesome. I'm going to go run this route, and I'm going to run into somebody famous. Right? Didn't run into anybody famous, but the first time I ran this around, I probably passed over 100 people. And every time I was coming up a person, I was looking to see if they would acknowledge, right? And their headphones were on. They were just looking down. And I would say probably 90 or more out of 100, I'm sitting there smiling, ready to say hi, and I just ran by them. So I thought, wow, how many people are just going through their lives just like, not even awake as to what's going on. So then the next time I went to run, okay, I'm going to try something different. And this is what to me, it was really interesting. And this is where it comes to what we're talking about here a little bit, is that I'm going to start ahead of time and start like waving my hands and see how many people that if I can actually engage them instead, because before I was like going like this and then I would like turn over to smile as you were right here. Now what I'm going to do is when I'm right about here, I'm going to start. And about 95% of the people, when I would do this, they'd look up and I would just smile. And I wish I could have had a picture or a camera, because I saw so many just amazing smiles. But all of a sudden people was like, oh, you acknowledged me as a human being. It was just like they just kind of woke up and there's just these big smiles. And some people was like, oh, hey, how are you today? And so it was just interesting. This one person, I think that, I don't know why they were on the walk, but it's obvious that they must have been having a really bad day, because their arms are folded and they were just walking like this and they were by themselves. And so as I came running up on them, I'm like, hey, how are you today? And it's like they came out, they just got this big smile, oh, good type of thing. And so I did that the whole rest of all my runs the last couple of weeks. And it was interesting how just waking people up. And then they're just human. It was just, I just loved doing that. Now that's part of my temperament, right? Just trying to engage with people. That's why we're all here today. So this is just nothing more than just, okay, we're going to wake up a little bit and have this self-awareness discussion. When we finish this, then we're going to go and move into what we call self-management discussion. Because it won't do any good for us to be self-aware if we aren't going to do something with it. So that's where we're going to end. We'll end today, actually. Well, what are you going to do with this information? We don't want you leaving here going, okay, I went to this group and I was sent to the blue table, so now I'm going to tell everybody in the world I'm a blue. You aren't a blue. You just have to be sitting at a table that's identifying this blue temperament, which doesn't mean that but that doesn't define who you are. And we're so much more than that, right? So we're not an orange or a green. But that said, I am going to isolate. So this is my little disclaimer. Nobody get offended. I have people, because when I start talking about, like, we're going to use your posters, and then I'm going to start talking, people are like, well, I don't do that, and that's not me. And like, I'm not talking about anybody here. I'm just talking in general. If there was an orange, such thing as an orange, this would be like the extreme. This is what it'd be like. So that we can all sit there and go, oh, okay, well, I don't want to be that. But what could I be as I move into and from a management perspective? Okay, so that's where we're going to go. So on page 8 of your book, this is your opportunity now to start capturing some information about the other temperaments. I'm pretty sure nobody came here. I've never had anybody come up to me after one of these sessions and say, prior to coming here today, I had no idea that I really loved people. Right? Or after coming here today, thanks so much for this, Dave. I had no idea that I really love this orange thing. Now, you all pretty knew who you were when you came here, right? That was nothing new to you. What might be new to you is to hear somebody else talk about who they are and what makes them tick, that now all of a sudden you're going, interesting. I've done a lot of family work with families, and usually the spouses are sitting at opposite tables. Or I've got kids that are sitting at opposite tables from parents, right? And then they sit there and go, okay, Now I know why I hate you so much. No, for the first time, they can see in real time, right here, right now, that you're just not a jerk, right? Because I didn't know why you were so different, but you just see the world differently. So we're going to learn. So this is your place to capture. I'm going to give you at least one word for each of these, but you might capture some of the others because this is real. I can give you lists of blues and greens and oranges and golds. This has been around for thousands of years. There's nothing new about this information. But what is interesting is that you're hearing it from people in this room that are real humans that says, this is what's really important to me, right? I ask you to put down values, joys, strengths, and needs, when in reality, this is a values chart, right? What do you need? Well, that's part of, I value this, that's why I need it, type of thing. So as each of the, so before you present, let me just share with you kind of an overview. So these are the 4 temperaments: green, gold, orange, and blue. They're in this order for a real reason. How many of you have heard of right brain and left brain, right? I mean, I grew up, and we all talked about that. Oh, you're a really right brain, or you're a really left brain. So is this. Green and gold are very left brain. Blue and orange are right brain. If you happen to be green, gold, or gold, green, you're screwed. No, it just means that you probably aren't as human as you could be, right? If you haven't really worked at it. Or if you happen to be on this side, very orange or blue, you probably aren't as competent and organized and get stuff done like this group would like you to get done. So those are the opposites come in this way. And then from a temperament perspective, let me just give you some numbers. All of this is in your back of your books. You don't have to write any of this down. Just relax and listen for just a minute. The green is about 6% of the population would be back here at this table. Very small percentage. Thus, we have a room of 20 some odd people, and there's only just a couple of them back here. 6%. It is the only, I don't know why, but it's the only temperament group where the demographics, where they actually went and tested and said, well, how many are men and how many are women? None of the other groups did they do this. Of that 6%, only about 25% of that 6% are female. So they're and the good news about that is that they're perfectly fine with that, right? I was coaching this. I did this with, it was a college volleyball team, and the coach, they couldn't get winning any games, and they're aggressive and they were out there, and so I watched. So I said, well, let's just do this. I'd be interested to see the makeup of your team. So she was a high orange blue, the coach was. She recruited 10 of her 12 players were orange blues. I mean, they're running through walls to try to get to balls, right? I mean, they're just doing everything. They're just out there. They're aggressive. When somebody did something, they're all hugging each other, right? It's all this big deal. They had 1 green on the team and 1 gold on the team. The gold was about ready to leave the university and because there was no structure to any of their practices. They just come, so what do we, so the practices weren't organized, there was no structure, and the green was about ready to leave the team because every time she did something that she didn't hit the ball just right, or she didn't get whatever, she didn't block just right, the green basically says, okay, I just need to get down, I need to figure this out, I need to recoup, I need to readjust, but I need to do this, right? So what do you think happened every time she knew that she'd made a mistake? What did the rest of the team do? They all go give her big hugs. It's okay, don't worry about it. And she's like, she was just like doing one of these deals, right? Because they just didn't. So after we did this session, interesting enough, so people understood her and said, so what she really wanted was just to be left alone. She'll figure it out. And if she needed some help, she knew she could come get some help from the other players. To help the gold out, recommended to the coach was she needed an assistant coach. You need to hire a gold assistant coach. And she did. And you would have heard the crying the next week. I mean, because 6 o'clock in the morning, we're in the gym, we're doing this, we're lifting weights, we're doing this, that, and that turned their program around. This simple conversation right here just turned their program around. They put some order, some discipline into what they were doing. They began to understand and have a little bit more understanding of the different players. The coach knew that she, again, how awesome was that? She hired all these players, recruited all these players that were just like her. And then as she now has grown. So that's the power of this, right? So very small percentage here. 10% of the population is here, right? Again, not big percentage of population. I won't say anything to make fun of them because I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings because they have them, all right? Orange, 40% of the population comes from the orange, generally, first color, and then 44% come from here. So it's really interesting. That gives us what? 50-50. The population is, no kidding, divided like almost 50%, right? We got 40% over here and 10, 6, and 4. And that it just, I mean, you can look at any, and it's up and down. But generally speaking, about half the population is left, half the population is right. But then we start dividing up like this, it's a big shift. So you can't just lump people and say, oh, they're left brain. That is not true, because within left brain, these are not the same. Right brain, oh, all right brain people, these are not the same. They're a whole different, you'll see here in just a minute, whole different poster that's going on here. So that's this. The opposites come in here. You'll see that in just a second. Green is the exact opposite of blue, right? Gold is the exact opposite of orange. And what's happening here in the green is what, I won't go into a lot, but anybody taken Myers-Briggs? Anybody had a Myers-Briggs? A couple folks in here? Years ago. So, they have some, and again, your book will tell you about it, but basically, the green and the blue are, what's happening there is it's happening internally. The green is happening internally in my head, the blue is happening internally in my heart. That's where the conflict comes. We'll share that when we get to the posters. What's happening between these two groups is external. There's a battle going on, right? And it's a battle that we see. This is a physical battle, literally, it's going on between these two groups. And we'll talk a little more about that. So just know that this is a general idea of what's happening even in this room, but more importantly, in our relationships, right? So I had 7 kids. You're going to hear all about that and what happened in that whole world, and with me and my wife, and what happened in that whole world, and me at work and you at work. So we don't get to escape being humans. The question is are we even aware of how we're impacting other humans based off of this information we're talking about? So one of the things we'd like to invite you to do is click below in the description. There's a little button that says More. Click on that More and take our free assessment and begin your journey to understand a little bit more about yourself so that you can start evaluating your values and your attitudes and compare those to your actions. But more importantly, again, remember, it's your attitude that determines your peace as you're going through your life. And as you do that, you can help us on our journey of helping us put the human back into humanity.